Hey guys, wanted to apologize for my absence. I took my wife to Catalina Island this past week for her birthday, so I've been out of the saddle for a bit. Um, Definitely would recommend if you can make the trip out to Catalina Island. Um, Definitely would recommend going there. It was freaking awesome. One of the most amazing trips we have ever been on as a couple. So it was pretty cool. Anyways, uh, with that being said, wanted to kind of get back in the saddle since I've been out for a little bit. Didn't want to talk about much. I mean, I haven't traded the past couple days. Wanted to take Monday just to kind of um, get back and look, see how things were going. Tuesday, today, same thing. Tomorrow I'll definitely trade, but as we can see across the board, we've been super weak, right? This past week, we've essentially entered bear market, bear territory. Sold off, have been selling off like crazy. If you look at the SPY here, um, you can see what last Friday we had a gap down, Monday we had a gap down, and then we're here today. So, definitely been super weak. But let's look at how things kind of shaped up today. If we could easily see kind of that 360 range. I look at just kind of looking out here. Essentially, if we go to the weekly chart on the SPY, I'll just go out max available. So essentially, if we go to the weekly chart on the SPY, you can see where really the last couple times. So this is back in 15, 16, 18, 20, we were below it. But this green line is the 200 simple moving average. So you can see, the last few times, excluding 20, when we definitely had that crazy sell off, we were hitting that 200 before we started to see a major rally come. And then, essentially in 20, we came down below the 200. We were down there for a few weeks, and then we started back up, and that's when we had that crazy rally to where we are today. So, I'd be looking for definitely some type of bounce. I don't necessarily know if we're going to get a full recovery, but some type of bounce around that 350 range in the SPY. So, we got what, essentially $23 more, $20 more until we get around that 200 simple moving average before we can start to even think about us having a significant bounce. But really, I've got a bit of a bearish bias, over the next, at least for the rest of this week, and we'll see how next week goes, just depending on how far we drop. So, anyways, let's look at today's action. So, it looked pretty sloppy. Let's look at the pre-market for SPY. So you can not always tell, but you can kind of tell if you're going to have a messy day when it kind of, looking at the pre-market. So we had a high of 380 and a low of 373. So we had about a 7-point move pre-market, and it didn't look, it was kind of all over the place, to be honest. So going into the day, I was thinking it probably would be the same way, but I thought we would eventually go lower. So let's just take a peek at how the day went. So you can see here we opened up essentially underneath that 9 EMA. So this would have been a good play. Not an A++ setup, but definitely a pretty good setup. Open underneath the 21 here. Looks like VWAP held right here. So you could have had an entry right at that 9 EMA with your stop on the close above it. And then you could have played it down. So you could have entered around 376 and put it down to 374. Um, the only reason why I wouldn't consider this A plus plus is because this was the stow was already underneath that purple line there. I like to see it cross first just to show a sign of momentum. Then it looks like we come down here. Looks like you could have possibly had another entry here after we retraced. So let's see, we got a cross down, a cross below. So that's one check. Uh, bearish divergence is another. Volume was over average. It was below VWAP. Now here we didn't have the 9 and 21 EMA cross, so that wasn't what wouldn't be considered an A plus plus setup, but still a pretty good setup. Could have entered here right at VWAP at 376, and then of course had your stop or your take profit around 373. That 373 level once again was a pre-market level, so that's where I would have where I actually had put my line if I was going to actually play have any plays today. And then it looks like we kind of just messed around. I mean, you could have had a play off of this right here, but um, not really the greatest setup. You can see all these wicks going back and forth and watching throughout the day. It was definitely a pretty wicky day, to say the least, today. So now we had a nice squeeze here. Um, so this could have been a nice play. Looks like we had one with a squeeze at 11. So we had a nice squeeze here. One cross on the stow. We're squeezing. Bullish divergence here. Had a cross on the 9 and 21. And then you could have played it up. The only reason I wouldn't consider this an A plus plus setup is because it was below VWAP. When I like to see this cross and I like to see strength. I like to see that above VWAP, not below it, because you can definitely get stopped out right at VWAP right here. And on the 5-minute chart, definitely didn't have the greatest entry. I mean, you would have had it entered essentially right at that 9. I like to enter once the 9 crosses, so I like to have an entry like right here if perfect. But like I said, you would only had 74 to 70, so couple dollar move if that. But when I was watching these, once again, these were super wicky. So, definitely would have had to have a stomach to kind of get through that play there. And then going throughout the rest of the day here. So right here could have been another good entry. So you had to cross down here. You had bearish divergence here. You didn't have above average volume, and this was kind of midday. So this was 11:30ish. So not the greatest volume time. You could have an entry right here at VWAP and then had a close above VWAP. You could have been your exit. Could have entered here. That would have been slightly sooner than the 9 and 21 crossing, or if you wanted to wait, you could have entered here and then had the 9 pull back above the 9 as your stop. Came down because you had bearish divergence. You can see we had a pop back up here, and then you can see we based for a bit underneath that 21, and then you can see we just sold off after that. So it would have been about a $4 move down to 370 there. So could have possibly played that back up, but once again, I like to see if I'm gonna see some strength. I want to see those wicks. I want to see those candles be above VWAP there. So, anyways, that's kind of a quick rundown of what the SPY looked like today. So I'm just glad to be back. Definitely going to be trading the rest of the week, and I'll be having some plays I'll be reviewing for you guys. So with that being said, hopefully you had a good week of trading. Hopefully you mitigated risk. You took A plus setups and you grew your account. And I will talk with you guys later.